under his guidance, to be the highest quality, unenhanced sound available today. And on Tuesday, we'll be celebrating our 13th birthday. We're so glad you're here tonight. Taking the stage for the late set tonight is a gentleman from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Anybody been to Colorado Springs, Colorado? Right? Home of the United States Air Force Academy? Right? Okay. So, Tony Exum Jr. Is not only a great saxophonist, but he's also a composer and a recording artist, and interestingly enough, a radio host as well. And so tonight you're going to hear some of works from others, some of his own works. He's got a killer band tonight. And you're also, sprinkled here and there, you're going to hear the musings of a radio announcer. And we're so happy to have him back. It's been a while since he's been here, about a year. And I'm glad you're here. We have great food here, great drinks. Our food includes our homemade desserts, including Chef's red velvet layered cake, which has all of what you want in it and none of what you don't. And it's even better if you take it home and eat it together in bed. Are you ready? Are you sure? I'm going to give you one chance to give Mr. Colorado Springs, Colorado, a great Georgia welcome. And here we go. Put your hands together for Tony Exum Jr.
Georgia. How y'all doing tonight? Georgia, what's going on? Yeah. Welcome to the Velvet Note. Thank you so much. It's good to be back. It's my second time here, and I'm ready to have a good time with you. That's all right. Yes. America's acoustic living room. That's what it feels like. It feels like that front room. How many of y'all know about the front room? The plastic on the couch, the ashtrays, the old lamp that you couldn't touch. That's what this is. This is the room you was trying to get into when you was a kid. You wasn't old enough to be in there with the grown folks. So you couldn't wait to get old enough to sit in the front room. Now you're in America's front room, having a good time with me, right? Yeah. All right, we're gonna have a good time tonight. I promise you, I promise you. The first song you just heard was a little something from me. You probably heard it on WCLK. Then you heard it on WJZA right here in Atlanta. That was a single from mine from a few years back called Get At You. We're playing a lot of original songs tonight, but I'm gonna play a couple other tunes as well, so let's just have some fun. It's the second show, so I get to stretch out just a little bit on this one. We're gonna hang out, okay? I'm gonna give you your money's worth, I promise. Let's go. This song right here I recorded with a band from DC called Phase 2. And we call this one In the Pocket. Check it out. Justin. Will be called out. In the pocket. And Corey's over there in the pocket, ain't he? Yeah. Hold it down. That's the sign of a really, really good and experienced drummer. So, play some original stuff like I said. And I'm gonna get to this a little bit later, but this song here, I was signed to a company for a little while. A couple years ago. And it's a great song, but it didn't get a lot of radio play because of that company, but that's another story. I'm not going to talk about that because I'll be here for 45 minutes complaining about the record business. You're not going to do that tonight. And at the end of the day, it's all about being on stage in front of you. Right? But I want to play this song. Yes, yes. Radio business is crazy as it is, so I like this song because I will say this song when it came out surprised a lot of people, so we're gonna go ahead and play it because I like it. The name of the song is Everything. Check this out. There we have it right there. All right. This next one was my first #1 on any chart. Big shout out to Urban Influence Radio. Went #1 with this one for 2 weeks last year, and it's a cool song. Written by a good friend of mine named David P. Stevens. Great guitarist and producer. Y'all know David? That's my guy. Yeah, David's the man. So we did this together, and I'll play it for you. It's called Hold My Hand. so much. Y'all all right out there? Make some noise for the late show. Now look, I know some of y'all got church in the morning. We in Atlanta. I can keep you out too late. But you better make first service. These guys got it, so y'all got to be there too on time. I know some of y'all are like, shoot, that 10 o'clock service looks real good. I know. Trust me, when I have late night gigs, there's sometimes, see, me being a saxophone player, I could kind of go in and out. So I didn't have to be there at 7:30. So y'all understand, musicians, we got to get to church at like daybreak, or like dawn. So we got to rehearse the music with the choir and the singer that's going to change the key on every song the day of. Or change the song. You know, y'all have no idea what we go through. You show up, you've been rehearsing this music all week, then all of a sudden, so, yeah, we're going to do it in B flat. Wait a minute. So, because, you know, the lead singer is hoarse right now. So, gotta go down a whole step. So y'all better make first service. Drink your communion now. It's gonna be all right. Anyway, speaking of that, this thing, I'm gonna take you to my brand new single, y'all. I'm about to play it for you right now. It's my latest single, and WJZA's been playing it a lot. Shout out to them, Atlanta's own smooth jazz station. Yes. Radio's important, y'all. So check this out. Just so you know, I said this on the last show, I'm gonna say it again. You know, we're in different times now. You know, it's all about streaming, picking up your phone and listening to music. So for all the young millennials, Generation Y and Z's in here, if there's any, there was this thing called a CD. Before that, it was a cassette. And you had to go buy music to listen to it. Or you had to listen to the radio and wait and hope they play your favorite song. And if you were a kid in the 80s and early 90s, you had to have one of those double cassette players. You had to have a blank tape. I remember the little 4-pack we used to get, the little Memorex 4-pack, it's 45 minutes on each side. You had your tape on pause. As soon as your favorite song came on, you lifted the pause and recorded it. But you had to make sure that the DJ didn't come on before the song came off and start talking and mess your favorite song up. But that's how you had music back in the day. You had to buy it. You had to mow some lawns and, you know. Matter of fact, a couple times, big shout out to my cousin Eric right here. One of my first jobs was with his lawn service. He used to make me sweep out this nasty truck with all the flies and bugs and dead grass. He used to make me clean that joint out. But he would pay me though. And so a couple times I took that money and went and bought me some music here, just so you know. Went and bought me like Troop or BBD. I date myself. I'm 50, y'all. Right? Just turned 50 in April, so yeah. Milestone. I don't feel it though. I mean, not really. I mean, like if I had a couple of drinks, you kind of feel it the next day. For those of you who aren't 50 yet, let me tell you, the recovery time does like this when you get a little older. You can't just bounce back. So now I gotta stretch all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like that part. I'm trying to stay in shape though, because it's very important. But anyway, I want you guys to stream this song like crazy, because that's what we do now. Kids don't know about buying music and working, getting an allowance, so you can go to the record store and get a cassette single. Y'all remember them cassette singles? They had like one song on it. But y'all, you know, it had the remix on there. Then it had the instrumental on the back on the other side. We missed those days, right? But now you can do like this. Oh, Tony Exum got a new song. Let me go to YouTube. And you can listen to it a lot, and I might get a penny after you've listened to it about 1,000 times. So all I'm asking you guys to do is that this new song is called And the Story Goes. I want y'all to stream this joint tonight. Each and every one of you, like I told the last crowd, like 100 times. You hurry up and do it. I don't leave Atlanta until Tuesday. So my baggage fees will get paid if y'all stream this song. Now the Southwest is charging. What are they doing? What is Southwest doing? I don't want to talk about that. And I'm A-lister. Like I should have, never mind. I would pay for one bag. So trust me, I'm putting one of my horns in the suitcase. I don't know how I'm gonna make it work, but I'm gonna do it. So help me get back home, y'all. Anyway, this is called And the Story Goes. Check it out. Story Goes, the brand new single. It's doing all right on radio right now. Matter of fact, we just hit top 100 a couple weeks ago. Yes. Hopefully on our way to Billboard. Pray for that. Billboard top 30. We'll see what happens though. Anyway, thank y'all so much. I'll let the band cook on this one, so each one of these guys will get a solo, so yeah, y'all just wait. So, and I'm buttoning the code for this one. We're gonna pay homage to one of the best saxophone players, in my opinion, and lots of others, in contemporary jazz to ever walk the face of the earth. We lost this guy back in '96. And I tell people all the time, if this gentleman had never left us, contemporary jazz, smooth jazz would be a lot different. And he goes by the name of Art Porter. And this is called Lay Your Hands on Me. give you Dusty. Yes. All right, we gotta crank it up a little bit. I'll see this brother back on the bass. It's Saturday night. Y'all ready for some bass? Yeah. I'm ready. We're gonna let Tim, my man Tim, get it. So I'm gonna get out of the way. The bass man take over. All right. hey, this ain't to play tonight. I got one more for you. He's the heartbeat. He's the MD. He's one of your own. Y'all seen him before. Y'all ready for chord? On the drums, y'all ready for chord? Yeah, come on now. fault, it's this band. Oh, thank you so much, I appreciate that. That's what music's all about, just, I had a rough week. Seriously, I had a rough week, well, rough 2 weeks, so. But you know, the stage is where it's therapy. This is therapy for guys like me, and these gentlemen, and maybe even for you, because you all love music. And it's places like this, the Velvet Note, that allow us to release or escape, or cope with, or sometimes just have fun. I mean, music is it's just emotions and sound. That's what I call it. So, every now and then you just gotta cut loose a little bit and just, you know, let the gift speak. I've been playing the saxophone. I suffer from asthma. So, you know, then I got this septum thing. It's kind of messed up. I don't want to do the surgery though, because I heard what they have to do to fix it. And I'm like, nah, I ain't doing it. Give me some nasal sprays and we're gonna work this thing. You know what I'm saying? So, I've never been under the knife. You know, I think asthma's been enough. Like I said, I've never been under the knife, I've never broken a bone, twisted an ankle, none of that. So, right, thank you, cousin. Thank goodness, at 50 years old, so we're gonna make sure that the next 50 is gonna stay the same. You know what I'm saying? And I keep coming back to that because this business has been great, it's been ups and downs, it's been a crazy journey for me. And I remember one day, about 15 years ago, 14 years ago, something like that, I got laid off from my last day job. I was already playing music, my first CD was out, and so I was on my way to doing what I'm doing now, but I was like, I remember driving home and saying, that's it for me. I'm applying for another job, I do this music thing full time. I got to my little house in Colorado Springs, and I sat down on the couch and just said this like 20-minute prayer. And I said, you know what? If you can help me get to this point where I can just do this, you know, I'll make sure that I speak about you and, you know, just be unapologetic about you. And I've done that, even with my ups and downs and my craziness. But I did that. That was September of 2010. I haven't looked back since. 3 albums and a bunch of singles later. So that prayer led up to this moment right here that we're having right here on this stage. That prayer is the reason why I'm here, you know, May 31st, 2025. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys because without you coming to the shows and supporting places like this, giving us a chance to vent musically or just play or have fun, you know, it would be a lot harder for us. So I want to thank you guys for keeping this place going for 13 years. Yes, indeed. So, do this next song. This was my last single, and I just did my first music video for this song. I filmed it in my favorite city, one of my favorite cities, Dallas, Texas, a couple weeks back. So the video is going to premiere in a few weeks, and the name of the song is Mr. S-A-X. Give it once again for Justin, Tim, Corey. Get up our sound, man. Sound in the band, make it sound sweet. Get up for yourselves to support my music right here in Alpharetta. Please keep this going. I really thank you guys so much. I want you guys to get home safely. Take care of everybody. I said make it the first service, don't be playing. All right? We're gonna jam out on this last song real quick and get out of here, you guys. Tim, go ahead and start this. It's all you, bro. End the show without doing a little something from the godfather of contemporary jazz, the late great Grover Washington Jr. We're gonna vibe out on this real quick, y'all. This is called Let It Flow. for tonight? I sure did. I love these guys. Get a little something new before I send y'all home. Let's take it to church, since we got that in a few hours. Get y'all going there. Back. Yeah, let's go there. Give me that quartet. Let's take it in, y'all, real quick. Get that out real quick. Give me some, bro, real quick. Real quick. We're gonna go to Mississippi. Make it real sleazy. We're gonna take it to the juke. Take it to the juke joint. Let's take it to the juke joint, y'all. It's on you, Corey. Slow it down. Take it to the juke joint. y'all. Thank y'all so much. Once again, Corey on the drums. Tim on the bass. Justin on the keys. Y'all made it all week, y'all. Thank y'all so much. Make sure to take pictures and video. Just hashtag Tony Exum Jr. and the Velvet Note. Follow me on Instagram, T Exum Jr. Sax. Tony Exum Jr. Music on Facebook. And TonyExumJr.com is the website. Once again, from the bottom of my heart, thank y'all. And like I say on my radio show, at the end of every night, I say this one thing. I've heard it before, but I'll say it to you. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it, y'all. Thank you. Good night, y'all. Thank you.
That's Tony Exum Jr. Live at the Velvet Note. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. We loved having you. We'd love to have you again. You can find all of our upcoming shows at thevelvetnote.com, thevelvetnote.com. We have a great and eclectic selection of jazz and blues and other types of music. And I encourage you to take a look at that calendar and spread the word. If you enjoyed yourself, we'd like to see you again. On behalf of Red, on the sound, and Landry on the floor, and Sheila on the floor, and Corey mixing it up behind that bar, and Julia back and forth, back and forth. And our great sous chef, Candy. And then putting out all of that good stuff, crab cakes and shrimp and grits and homemade red velvet cake and banana pudding is Chef Daryl Agee in that kitchen. I want you to remember what I always say, which is never stop dating. Never stop dating. We're here for you when you're ready. This is what we love to do, which is to bring you closer to artists who inspire you, closer to each other, closer to the song that's in your heart. Please come and see us again. Good night.